So at the age of 16, I committed murder. At the age of 18, I went to prison all the way up to the age of 38. And while I was in prison, I met millionaires, I met billionaires, I met killers. And at the end of the day, I'm going to give you a story that's going to change your whole life.
William, I appreciate you coming over here all the way from New York, the Bronx, the real street.
Thank you.
Man, you definitely have a story, man. You have a story that a lot of people need to hear because it's an incredible story. You have a lot of story to tell. And the beautiful part, it have a happy ending, which is not an ending still. It have such a twist, and a lot of people don't get out of that world. And what better person to tell it yourself, someone that you wrote a book and you told your story. And I wanted to bring you to this podcast because there's people that are going to learn from this experience and from your story. And a lot of people are going to relate what you're going through, man. It's just crazy, especially that kind of world that we live in right now. New York, the laws and all the immigrants are going through, and people trying to make some extra cash on the sides. And hey, I need some money, and they want to get in the street, but they don't understand the end of the street. And William, I appreciate you coming over here, man.
And I thank you for having me.
No,
and
definitely.
At the same time, like I said, I just wanted my story to get out, and I want my story to help the people that come from where I come from, that come from the projects, that come from the streets, and don't know a way out. You know what I'm trying to say?
Even those young guys right now, probably 14, 13-year-old, trying to get in the street, trying to be in the street, they hear the rap music.
They think it's cool.
And they think it's cool.
Yeah, they think it's cool. They don't know that at the end, then they go to jail, or, they catch a murder, or somebody catches a murder and they involve them and they go to jail to do time for something they didn't do, or just for being around. It's a whole different ballgame. It's not fun no more once you go to jail. In the streets is fun. Everybody's trying to impress their friends, impress the other one. But once you go to jail and them consequences come, it's no longer fun.
When did it start? At what age? Your background and how everything began, and let's talk about that for a moment. So what age did everything started, or how did you even got into the world of the street? How did you get from, because for what I hear, you had great parents. Your parents were not from the streets at all whatsoever.
Definitely not.
Great people,
hardworking.
And you got into the world and it just took a left.
And I didn't look back.
So let's talk about that for a moment. The age.
So again, first and foremost, I was born and raised in New York. Mm-hmm. At the age of 13, I started gravitating more towards the streets because I started, I was in junior high school and all my friends were, like stealing cars, selling drugs.
The school, the environment you lived.
Yeah, it was the environment. So all my friends were all in the, basically as young ages, but they, like, for example, my parents worked and gave me everything that I wanted, but their parents didn't. So some of their parents didn't have anything. It was drug addicts. So they would have to sell drugs, steal.
What high school you went to?
I went to Morris High School.
That's not where J-Lo went around now.
Nah, not around there. Morris High School. But it's like where Fat Joe and them live at, like in that area. Yeah, so I went to that school where Morris High School.
Because a lot of people are giving hard time to
J-Lo.
Jennifer.
I heard that she's not really from the block.
She's
not really from the block. That's what they saying now, right?
She doesn't know about the chop chicken and all that stuff.
Yeah. But listen, again, she's from the South Bronx, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that because she's from the South Bronx that she's from the life.
She's not from the life.
You know what I'm trying to say? She grew up in a house like other people that come from there grew up in projects and, in poverty-stricken places. So,
but not from the street.
Yeah, but she's not from the street. But it doesn't mean that she's not a good person or that she doesn't give back to her community. You know what I'm trying to say? So at the end of the day, they're just trying to find something to throw at her. Right? Say something about it. But again,
she decided as famous. Like she wanted to be a famous person.
That's it. That's what happens when you're famous. Exactly.
But so it's not the same high school. But so what was the high school name again?
Morris High School.
Morris High School. So talk to me.
So anyway, so we started going, me and my friends are at school. So like I was saying, a lot of them were not as privileged as me that had parents that give them everything I needed. Like every time I wanted a new pair of sneakers, my mother would give it to me. My father, they give me everything I need, clothes. But some of them, and every time a new pair of sneakers come out, they would have to sell drugs, rob somebody, take them from somebody, even take the sneakers off somebody's person. The type of people that I grew up with. And little by little, I gravitated to them, and we became a little gang in the streets. So
it started with a friend, I guess.
Yeah, a bunch of friends that we all grew up together, just friends. And next thing you know, we started like making it more of a gang. And then because at the time there was more gangs coming out, then little by little we was just, ganging up. More people coming, more gangs.
It was not an official gang. It was just a bunch of group guys.
At the moment. But then we gave ourselves a name.
Damn, what was the name?
The name Power Rules.
Power Rules.
Power Rules, like Power Rules. That's simple. So we started calling ourselves the Power Rules. And we were young little punks, running around the streets. Man, like 14 years old, stealing cars, doing everything. But little by little, we started getting recognized, by all the older guys, all the bigger drug dealers. And, I'm trying to say, like, all the people from the hood started recognizing us, and they seen that we was just some wild, young, atrevidos, just crazy kids that was whatever. So the older guys, the older drug dealers and people that had, like, their little schemes going on, they started contracting us. They was like, yo, listen, we're going to burn this store down. We need you to burn the store down so we could get the insurance, and they would just give us $1,500. To us, $1,500 is a lot of money. We're like, smoke weed. That's what we're gonna do. Especially for me, I still have my parents giving me everything. I wasn't paying rent. I didn't have no real, I'm trying to say, like, no real responsibility. So any money I get, it was beautiful just to smoke weed, drink a little 40. That's what we was doing, hanging out. So that's how we started. We started stealing cars, and we started burning little in establishments and getting the insurance, for the older people. So that's how it happened. And little by little, we just got a little bigger. We got a little bigger. We started selling more drugs, started robbing more people. So we eventually, the power rules, we got a reputation.
How did you guys get into the drugs? Because, stealing cars to selling drugs, it's a step.
It's a big step.
Who bro you got? Like, so, I don't know if you want to get into
that. My main guy, which he's in jail now doing life, right? He's in jail doing life. He still got life. He's never coming out. So he's the first one that brought the drugs to us. He had a connect. He had a girl that, the girl obviously had a husband, and the husband was like some big time guy. I know this now, right? Some big time guy. He was just supplying with heroin, and they was give us like $10,000 packages, and we was moving them. We used to move them.
And I'm talking about, this is in the 80s, right?
Yeah, in the 80s, like 88, 87, 88. And we was moving them. In my hood, there's people that was probably moving bigger, way bigger, obviously bigger packages. But to us, they gave us a $10,000 package. We moved it like in 2 or 3 days, it was gone. Everybody makes $3,000 or $4,000, a little $3,000. That's our profit. We give the rest back to the, the connect or whatever the case may be, and we keep it moving. So basically, that's how we started selling drugs, and we got into that severity, as far as, selling it to $10,000 a day. Then, it got a little bigger. And as far as, everything else was involved, stealing, robbing. I was robbing drug dealers, going back to the spot to sell it. I was robbing the drug dealers and going back to my spot to sell the drugs. That type of shit. So we was all involved heavily at young age, 14, 15, 16 already. At the age of 16, I was already, coming to jail in and out. Jesus. Getting arrested for drugs, for guns, for this.
What was your first arrest?
My first arrest was for a stolen car.
It
was a stolen car.
Jesus. Let me ask you, how was the experience? The first time, because the first time I bet you were scared, your parents just went south.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. At the beginning, even though I've always respected my parents, but at the beginning, it was like that. My parents, oh my God, they're coming to get me. That my father would slap me in front of the precinct, that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, because they still, they still put the fear in me at that time. Remember, the parents hit their kids. It's not like now that a parent hits a kid, they go to jail. Back in the days, my father beat the shit out of me in front of the precinct. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, so that was how that started. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, you're a criminal. My father was embarrassed. Like, oh my God, I came to this country from Cuba. We working hard. My mother and father worked hard their whole life. You know what I'm saying? For me to be a criminal, they give me everything. So they was embarrassed. You know what I mean?
Both of your parents are Cuban?
Yes. Yep. So, they was embarrassed. You know what I mean? Like, going to jail. So at the beginning, you know how it is, like everybody, I don't know about everybody, but me personally, my first time, I was like, I'll never come back again. But as soon as I went back to my friends, committing crimes again, it was nothing.
You get like addicted. It becomes like an addiction.
It becomes addicted.
And you start losing the fear.
That's what it is. You don't have no fear, because now what happens is you in the streets. So it's always the craziest one, right? The one that has less fear is the one that gets the most respect.
So for you, it was not out of necessity. It was more like an adventure.
It was an adventure. I just wanted to be down. Now that I'm 50 years old, I could look back and say the truth. I just wanted to be down because I didn't have no necessity. Again, I was raised, well, my mother and father both worked. Again, we wasn't multimillionaires or
the bills
were
getting
good.
Paid.
No, the bills were getting paid. My mother and father worked. I had 2 sisters. Grew up, me and my 2 sisters, and they gave us everything we needed. We all had our own bedroom. It's not
no
like we
real reasons to do this shit.
No real reason. We all had our own bedrooms. You know what I mean? There was no real, always plenty of food to eat. It was never. But again, what happened? In my defense, which is no real defense, but I got caught up with my friends that went to the schools in the vicinities and environment that I was in, and being that I'm from the South Bronx, remember I was in a poverty-stricken area. Just because my parents worked doesn't mean that they was rich, but they was way better off than a lot of people. So again, like you said, it was never out of necessity. It was just me wanting to be down. But then
you got caught up in the whole wet of the street.
I got caught up, and I just wanted to be bigger now. So now my thoughts is, man, I want to be the biggest drug dealer out here. You know what I mean? I want to be the biggest everything. I want to be everybody to fear me. I want everybody to, know who I am.
So you were looking for the respect now.
Looking for the respect because eventually, that's what it came down to, because now I'm from here my whole life. Everybody knows me, right? Everybody knows me. So it's not like a situation that I'm afraid that anybody's going to take anything from me, but I need that respect. So let me give you a quick story. So that came from one day, I'll never forget, that we was we bought some new furniture. And I was living on the 3rd floor. And I was like 10 years old. I'll never forget the story. So we was moving the furniture in and out. So there was 2 guys, drug addicts, I guess, watching us. So I guess we slipped and left the door open. Yeah. Not that we slipped the door, we left the door because it was moving, but we slipped and wasn't watching it.
Yeah.
Right? So we went downstairs to get something. When we came up, we seen the 2 guys running out of our house with VCRs and with stuff. Right? And I know these 2 guys, but from the hood, like 2 old, 2 Spanish guys, they, a little older than me, not that old, but a little older. And they was drug addicts, but they was the guys that they feared in the hood. They went around with guns.
Yeah. So
when I seen them, I was like, oh, they got us. But I was a young punk. I was in nobody, they would fear. So as I grew up, I always had that in my mind. I've always had that in my mind. And them same guys that I'm talking about, they became like my sons. That's, I never forget it. I always threw it in at them. Be like, yo, I remember you went to my house. I should kill you now, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? But like playing with them because, but we became cool. So later on, them 2 guys, became under me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? So that was always something that stood in my head. I wanted that respect, that at a certain point, I could have left my apartment door open and nobody would even look at it. I could have had a gold chains hanging and nobody would dare go in there after the reputation, that I put out there. I started shooting people, whatever we was doing, whatever it took, to be the strongest out there. In 1990, we came out in the newspapers, the Power Rules. They put us in the newspaper because they said we was so young and so ruthless. The New
How
York
many
Post.
You guys were?
Well,
small gang.
A small gang, but remember
12 people, 20.
Well, maybe it started like that, like 10, 12 people, like the people we grew up with. But little by little, now people start gravitating. Now people want to come over. People want to get down. So we started people from all over the hoods, which is one big hood. Like, for example, let's say I'm from Union Avenue. So this guy's from St. John's. This guy from Southern Boulevard. This crew's from Beck Avenue, whatever, Beck Street. These are New York streets. So they all want to be down now. They got a little crew there. They got a little crew there. They got a little crew there.
You were the boss.
I wasn't the boss, but there was no boss. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, there was no boss. When it first started, it started like, they're going to be the president, the vice president. It's a gang, like a bike gang. They got president, vice president. But from the beginning, there was no clear leader. We was all one. The only one that became like a clear leader was my friend that I told you is in life, because he was the one that started getting the drug connects. So then, he's the one bringing money to the table. So then we all respected him. Right or wrong. So we all looked at him like, okay, you could be the leader if there's a leader, because he's the one bringing the connects to the table. You know what I mean? And
handling business.
Handling in the business side of things. But I was still, with my little crew, we was still running around robbing everybody, sticking everybody up. We did it all. That was the reputation that we built. And that's why we were so strong. You know what I'm saying? Because we was just, feared, you could say, more or less. Kind of feared. They kind of feared us in my hood. And the biggest drug dealers in my hood and all that, and you might have, you're from Florida, but in New York, there's some big names out there. And they all know what time it is. They all did their thing. And I'm not saying that we extorted any one of them or took anything from them, but ain't none of them ever come our way to take anything either. You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
there was a respect.
There was a respect, even though at the end of the day, New York is a big place. The South Bronx is a big place. And there's so many big people that come from these places, as far as drug dealers and, killers from the streets. And, so basically the path that I went was to try to be one of those guys. I never thought about being a big, big CEO for a company, you know what I mean? Like, as far as selling Coca-Cola, or Pepsi.
So that's the world that you grew up, is the drugs, the people that steal, that do scam, and you wanted to be on top of the food chain that you were surrounded with.
Exactly.
You get me?
So that's how that turned out. And little by little, we just became bigger as a crew, stole more drugs, started sticking up more people, and we was feared at the same time, feared, respected. But with all that comes the downfall. Like we speaking now, that's, I went to jail.
Let me ask you a question. You said that your first time was you got caught stealing a car, right? Guess you were driving and they caught you.
Yeah.
And that's it.
They reported stolen, obviously, and then the police, with all we high speed chase, and Eventually
Oh,
got caught, went to
snap.
jail. But
What
that
was? Yeah, go ahead.
that was me. I'm sorry. That was me as a juvenile. I was like 14, 15 at the time.
Damn.
I mean, I went to, at the time, they called Spofford. Is a juvenile jail.
What was the
detention.
reason you stole a car? You wanted to sell it? You want to sell it for
We
parts?
were just hanging out. Honestly, the first time I got involved with that was just one of my friends pulled up.
Just to drive around.
Just to drive around, bro. Just to drive around. The crew, 5 or 6 of us, just hanging out. You know, it was cool though. Remember, when you're young, you want to be with your friends, and everybody wants to impress the other. You know what I'm trying to say?
Without thinking about the consequence.
Yeah, we didn't care. You know, at the time, it was fun. Because remember, what I'm trying to tell you is that we're from the hood, right?
Yeah.
So all of us are together. So if my friend went to jail, I wanted to go to jail too. I wanted to be with him too. I was like, fuck that. We all going to jail. We going to be tough in there too. So that's the mentality that we had. You know, it's the stupid mentality, but
It's crazy shit.
it's crazy shit, but that's how it was. My man used to call me from jail, and I'd be like, yo, don't worry about it. I'm coming there next week. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, stupid sounds stupid, but it's the truth. That's how we were. You know what I mean? Like,
Damn. When was the last time you got arrested? I'm not going to go to each arrest because I don't know how many.
You don't got time for that. We don't got time for that. So again, my first arrest was for stolen cars, and that was like 14, 15 years old. By the age of 16, I was already getting arrested numerous times for armed robbery, for guns. I got caught with a gun with a Uzi before. I got for selling drugs.
Stories?
Yeah,
In that part?
You
have a story in there or no?
Well, no, we were selling drugs. So the reason I got caught with the Uzi is all related to the drug case. So we were selling drugs in a building. You know, that was our spot. We was making the money a day. Then they used to have a police force called the TNT. They're the Tactical Narcotic Force or whatever. They was like the biggest at the time. So they came for us. You know, it was our turn, I guess. You know, they already heard we making noise. So they came for us. When they came, we were selling drugs. We had drugs, money, but we used to keep a gun with us. You know, we hanging out and we selling drugs. We had a Uzi. We had a Mac 10. That was our used to keep. So when they ran in the building, we ran, right? We ran up the stairs. You know, we ran up the stairs and, you know, we was out. But they caught us. Because what happened was one of my guys got caught and he snitched and he told them what apartment we was in.
Oh, freaking.
So when they came in the apartment, they found the drugs, the gun, the Uzi, the drugs, the money.
What happened with the guy that snitched?
Well, you already know, later on he got arrested and he came out, but later on somebody killed him. I don't know who killed him, but he got killed. Somebody
part
killed
of
him. Yeah, part of life. He was a drug, from the streets. So he wound up, being deceased later on. But again, not at my hands or hands of no one I know. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, but that's what happened. So we got arrested with the Uzi, but it was really like, it was how you say, we were still young, like 15, 16 years old. All I got was like 5 years probation for that at the time. Okay. They gave me 5 years probation for that. You know what I mean? And then after that I came out, I came out quick, gave me a little bullshit bail and I came out. And after that, back to the streets, back to business as usual. Nothing changed. Right back to business as usual.
Now you got into the adult life. Now you became 18. And you were dipping already. By the time you became an adult, 18, 19, 20, you were already selling drugs, stealing, and then after that, what became the norm? More into selling drugs, I'm guessing.
Selling, honestly, for me, like my crew was a gang. Like I said, a gang. So everybody had their own little, professions, right? Like in the gang. Yeah. So I was always the guy that was down with the stick-up crew. I liked it more to stick the drug dealers up and take their drugs and sell them in the spot and make free money instead of having to invest my money.
Oh, you used to do that?
Make, like my friends, they used to get connects and, get paid, 30% for the drugs, give the connect 70% back, right? Something like that, that type of stuff. Or they buy something and give back the consignment, you know what I'm saying? Like that type of shit. Yeah. I enjoyed more just taking as much as I can and selling it all for 100% profit. That's the way me and
you created a lot of enemies that way too.
We created enemies, but again, we were a little feared. So people would not, you know what I'm saying? Like they would already know. They're like, oh man, just, if you kill one of us, there's going to be 5 coming for you. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, so but we made so much noise that nobody wanted the problems because we was excited out. We was exaggerated. Like if you got to beef with us, bro, we coming 10 deep with 10 M16s. Like, walking in the middle of the street, 10 of us with M16s, even if the police stop us, we shoot at them type shit. So that's where our reputation was. You know what I mean? Like how we became strong in the South Bronx. Again, we was, called Power Rules and we was kind of strong. The New York Post made an interview about us as young guys. They saying, yo, you're the only young guys that's like organized crime, and the way we was doing it. You know what I'm trying to say? Like they pegged us as, the worst of the worst. Like we was, to be down with my gang, they say that you had to do initiation, shoot somebody in the leg, which was a lie. But I'm just saying that was their story. They would say stories about
They will
us.
make up stories.
Yeah,
about
make
the
up
gang.
stories. Yeah, to try to say, like initiations for the gang, but it's not true. But it wasn't true, But still, what I'm saying is we had
you guys had initiations?
Yeah. Nah, but not like that. Nah, it wasn't like that. If we allowed anybody in with us, it was because either they were somebody that represented, the life that we lived, brought something to the table, or we just liked them. It wasn't really because somebody had to do something.
Yeah.
That's
hey,
not
you
true.
want to be part of? Okay, let's be part of it.
Yeah, whatever. As long as they're real.
Yeah.
Right. As long as they're real people in the life that we live. That life again, it brings so many things. So not only me, all my friends going back and forth to jail. Like when we go to jail, we go to a dormitory or a cell house in jail, and maybe 5 of my friends is in there. So it was like being home. You know what I'm trying to say? Like we was all, everybody was going to jail. That shit was fun to us. Like jail, streets, back and forth, selling drugs. It was the life that we, that we enjoyed at the time. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And after a certain point, my parents they already gave in. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, oh man, ain't no saving him. You know what I'm saying? Like, my father was already so that he already threw in the towel that he just made sure that he paid for all my funeral courses, even while I was 16, 17 years old. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, he made sure that all my stuff was already, my plot.
Let me ask, so your parents pretty much, you got to a point that you got out of control. You got out of way from their hands.
Yeah, they couldn't do nothing.
What time you move out of your house?
Like by 17, yeah. I always had a place in my house, right? Because my parents, we was always loved. It was never to the point that they was like, yo, if you don't do this, you out of here. They never treated me like that. You know what I'm saying? They always was like, this is your home. You always got a room here.
But you moved out.
But I was in the streets selling drugs. I had my own apartment in the projects. You know what I'm saying? Like little 16 years old, 17, I already had my own apartment. You know what I mean? Like with my friends and us, girlfriends, whatever.
So you went in, baby.
Yeah, as a young kid, because again, where I come from, not to say that it's not like that in a lot of places, but my era and where I come from, it was there.
So let me ask you a question. So I know, you're in the world. Then when it started to get very serious, like you start catching already charges that hey, I'm not there for a weekend. Now I'm gonna be there for your first long-term prison. Talk to us about your first time that
my first long-term prison. So
yeah, and what happened?
In 1990, I was already like 17 years old, right? 17. And this night in particular, me and my 2 friends, we went and we seen a guy that owed one of my friends money. So he was like, yo, that's the dude right there that owed me money. He stepped off with like a package, whatever. I let us get him. So we chased him down, we beat him up, beat the shit out of him, you know what I'm saying? Took his, whatever he had. So this guy went and pressed charges. He said that we robbed him, which is not a real robbery. This is a drug shit. So he said we robbed him. So they wound up arresting me. They gave me like a, $35 bail. My mother and father bailed me out. You know what I'm saying? By that time, they still looked out for me, came and got me. But the guy, the armed robbery stuck, so I had to cop out to a year and a half for that.
For robbery?
Yeah.
A year and a half?
Yeah, I had to cop out to a year and a half because they wanted to go to trial. So if I go to trial, they was gonna give me double, triple. So I said, you know what? I'll take the year and a half. You know what I'm saying? So I went.
You were and that your life changed there.
So that was my first time ever going, to upstate. Being a penitentiary, no longer prisons, right? Because prisons is Rikers Island, detainees, right? Those are prisons.
Yeah.
So this was already going to a
jail.
Real jail, like a penitentiary type shit. So that's when my life changed. It was a little different,
Let me ask you a question. So now in that 1 year, do you met any enemies in there in the first year?
Well, when I came through, I went
because I know there's more story later on.
No, there's so many. But
this one,
in this one particular, it was I went to C-74.
Okay.
Which is Rikers Island. C-74, they call it Adolescents at War. Anybody from New York and that, they know what it is. So at that time, you used to be able to go to jail with your clothes. So remember, I was selling drugs. I always was fresh. So whatever clothes was at that time in 88, 89, the best clothes, I had it. You know what I'm saying? Like I went in there with the best clothes.
So you were chilling.
I was chilling with the best clothes, with my chain, watches, whatever. And they let you keep your stuff.
Inside jail?
Yeah, you go in there.
That's no
Nowadays,
longer,
it's no longer. No, they give you suits, county suits or whatever. But back then, you go with your own outfits. And you get your clothes from the street, you get your own clothes from the streets. So I went with my own clothes. As soon as I went in, the first thing everybody was in there was like, yeah, we gonna get that. So everybody was already, like my sneakers. Yeah, this guy was like, those are mine. Those are mine. The other guy, the jeans are mine. This other guy, the sweater's mine. So I'm like, wow, I'm scared to death. Don't get it fucked up. I'm like, oh shit, what I'm gonna do now? I'm going in here. But I do know because remember, I'm from the streets. I have friends that have been coming over. I came to jail already, juvenile.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm that new or that green, but still, I never went through that. So at the end of the
you
day,
went in jail for a year and a half with your clothes from the streets.
At the moment. When you first come in. When you first come in, they keep you in the detainee until they send you upstate. So again, I had to fight for my clothes. I had to fight, for my sneakers. Fight, I'm talking about ridiculously. Fight every moment. Couldn't sleep at night. Stay up in my bunk all night like that.
How long you were with your clothes?
Man, I was like 3 days without a shower, bro. Like
3 days?
Yeah, like 3 or 4 days without a shower, bro. Just because I didn't want to take off my clothes because they was trying to take my clothes. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, if I would have put anything in the, if I would have took off my clothes to go take a shower, I would have went back. They would have stole my clothes.
It was gone.
It was gone. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, for 3 or 4 days, I was living like that. Luckily, this big black guy took a liking to me because he seen I wasn't afraid to fight nobody. I was ready to fight everybody. Anybody that come to me, I'm fighting. So this big black guy that he was like running shit, he was like, yo, he's like, you know what? Leave that kid alone, bro. If y'all gonna take his shit, he's willing to fight anybody one-on-one for his shit. Let's do it. Stop trying to play him. You know what I'm saying? Like jump him, scare him, fight him. And I was like, yo, I fight anybody. I was a little skinny kid, 130, 40 pounds, but I wasn't afraid. I never been afraid. You know what I'm saying? I've been fighting my whole life. I'm from the projects again.
Yeah.
So I told, the guys, whoever want to fight me, fight one-on-one. And I fought a few people and they respect me. So little by little, that's what it was. And that's how I got my respect. And I was able to wear my own clothes. And then you go upstate. When you go upstate, though,
that's when you get the uniform.
You get your own greens. It's no longer that. You know what I'm saying? So, it's different, though, but when you go upstate. But when you go for like a year like I did, I went to a camp. That was sweet. It was sweet. It was like a camp.
Chilling.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's really nothing. Then later on.
You say right now it's sweet because you went multiple times to where situation.
Compared to where I really wound it up, where we're gonna find out where I wound it up next, that's like a camp. Again, it's exact words, a camp. Yeah. However you put it. Even if you say a camp out here, it's like a sweet place, right? Like so that's how I look at it, at the time.
But I see that nowadays people have phones in jails. They got TikTok, Instagram, social media. Back then they didn't have none of that stuff.
Never. I never seen a cell phone in jail, because I've been home 13 years now. Yeah. So, it's a little different. So all that is coming now, in the last 13 years. And although before I left, I was in the feds and that's when it started with the phones.
Yeah.
But it was still the charge. Like if you get caught with a phone at the time that I came out, that's a new charge. So I didn't want no phone. I wasn't going to. So now maybe they giving these people phones or something's going on. Because that's what I see. Everybody got it. So there must be legal in there.
Man, so I bet you when you were in the first long-term year and a half, you didn't want to try to extend that. Did they give you a shorter time or you end up doing the whole year and a half?
I did, it was a year and a half. Out of the year and a half, I did 1 year. And then they sent me home to what is called a halfway house called work release.
What happened during that time? You messed up again?
I messed up in a month. In a month time. In a month, I went home out of the year. In a month time, I got arrested for another armed robbery for a drug dealer. Shit. A drug dealer.
Under probation.
Under parole and all that. On the halfway house still. So that one was an armed robbery, a drug dealer. Is a guy from the hood. A guy that was really a drug dealer. They gave me 9 years for that. 9 years.
So you went 9 years after a year and a half. A year.
A
month out?
A month out.
Back in for 9 years.
For 9 years. So this time I went back to Rikers Island again, right? And I laid up 2 years in Rikers Island fighting the case because I was going to fight it because this guy's a drug dealer. I was like, come on, man. This guy's a drug dealer, man. And I kept trying to use that against him. But my lawyer and the DA, he was like, listen, man, it doesn't matter what he is. He pressed charges on you for that. And that's what you're here for. His time will come another time. But now this is your time. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing you can do about it. So I wound up going to trial for that, and they gave me 9 years.
Man, at that point, 9 years, you had all this situation on the street. I guess at that point, you had to say goodbye to all that world.
So at that point, I was already, how could you say it? I was already all in as a criminal.
Yeah.
You get it? I was already all in as a criminal. So this is my life. 9 years to me is life because now I got to stand a little different now than a year. You get it? Because now I'm going to max prisons. I'm going to see the real side of prison now. Now I got to stand up like a man for real, and be who I am because this is the life I chose.
Yeah.
Right? So then at the end of the day, that's where I became a man. You know what I'm saying? Within them 9 years. That's what made me become, but again, I was educated too, though. I wasn't just in there bullshitting. I was educated. I thank the Lord. I went to school since I was a kid. I dropped out in ninth grade. So at the end of the day, I had a little common sense, you know what I mean? So I would try to elevate myself, as far as reading books, try to get, certain knowledge or whatever the case may be and try to be a better person. But regardless of the fact, I was still in jail 9 years. So this was my life. So I had to be a criminal.
Did you get to see any of your friends during those 9 years?
Oh, definitely. All
the people that you were chilling in the streets, they all end up going to?
Yeah. Every jail I went to or anywhere I went, it was always a friend or two, that I grew up with, you know what I mean? Or somebody, remember after 9 years too, I met a lot of people.
Any friends that you were friendly in the street and then
Yeah,
became enemy
definitely.
in jail?
Not enemies. No, I never became enemies with nobody from the streets. You get it? Like if I made enemies in jail, it was jail things that happened that we became enemies. But it was never no beef or no enemies from the street. That you know what I'm trying to say? Like
So people that were friend stay friend
yeah,
in
definitely,
jail.
definitely. And anybody that was my enemy in the street, I never really bumped into them. And maybe it was one or two, and they were soft. Like they wasn't, they never did nothing to me.
You were not
like,
about that life no more.
Yeah,
Two
no,
different
you get it like, yeah, because if somebody did something to me and I see them, then it's on forever. But if I did something to them and they don't want to do nothing, then hey, it's okay. You get it? Like if I did something to you and you don't want to do nothing about it, then I'm good with it. I could live with it. But if you did something to me, then it's about how I feel about it. Right or wrong.
Yeah.
You get it? So
during that time.
you know what I mean? So that's the way that went. So the 9 years, that's when I became, a man, and that's when I went through all the maximum prisons, and that's where I lived. I seen what it was really about. You know what I'm saying? Like
9 years in prison, baby.
9 years.
But
that's nothing.
Let me ask you a question. The life in jail, man, the economy of jail. You have to be selling things, trade, extortion.
Yeah, either or.
Did that happen during the 9 years?
Of course. So throughout my 9 years, I was the mentality of a criminal. You know what I'm trying to say? I wasn't at that time. I was a criminal. That's it.
You were just not just chilling in jail. You were
I
making
was
things
selling
happen.
drugs. I was selling drugs in jail. I was sold more drugs in jail than I did in the streets. How about that? I've seen more drugs in jail than I've seen in the streets. You know what I'm saying? In jail, I fought more than I fought in the streets, obviously. You know what I'm saying? Like, stab people. I've been stabbed. I got stabbed in my head. I've been cut in my neck. I've been stabbed in my elbow. I've been through wars, in my time. You know what I mean? So I've been stabbed. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's the life that I had to embrace. Because again, not everybody could walk around with a chain where I come from, even though it's petty and it's stupid.
Yeah.
But, I had a status. So I walk around my chain, my watch, my ring. Not everybody can. Anybody in there with a chain is very likely they're going to get it taken. So I had to fight and make my reputation in order for me to come through with the biggest chain, and nobody would even look at me twice. But it became because of the reputation that I built.
You end up doing the 9 years?
No, I did more than that. So out of the 9 years, when I was doing my 9 years, I had 4 years in exactly in 10 months. Right? Exactly. Because I remember this to the T. I remember it's my life. So
yeah,
4 years and 10 months, they indicted me again on a federal racketeering case.
Jesus.
That involves some murders, conspiracy to murders, drugs and all type of shit. The only thing that hurted me was a murder. So they indicted me for a murder that happened in 1990 when I was like 16 years old. So that came back when I was doing the 9 years. A murder that I never was arrested. You want
to talk about the story?
Yeah, I don't
talk about the story. How they got you involved in that?
So what happened was again, I got indicted for the murder that happened in 1990. The murder in 1990 was I had beef with the Dominicans, some Dominicans that we had a little war in the streets. It was turf war. Had a little war with Dominicans. I came through and one of my friends had an IROC Z, one of them old Camaro looking cars. So I came through and in my hood, and the Dominicans see me and they were like, "Oh, he's right there," and they just started shooting my car. And I didn't even know what was going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, why they shooting me up? But it was, turf war, whatever. But I thought we was cordial, like, more or less. It wasn't like that. So I guess they just wanted to get us out the way. So they lit my shit up. I was out, though. Thank God they didn't hit me. I'm talking about they hit the car with like 20 shots. Not one shot hit me. And it was such a blessing. But I came back. When I left, I was out. I went back to the block. I came back with murder in my mind. You know what I mean? Like, you crazy? We went back, me and my team, like 5, 6 of us. Went back with M16, Uzis, AKs, anything you could think of, bro, we had. You know what I mean? And that's what happened that day. Went, bang, just shot it up. Lit them back up for shooting. And now I know this, but at the time, one of my friends, which were all from the same hood, one of my friends happened to be in front of the building when this happened. And the Dominican that I was shooting at grabbed my friend as a shield. He grabbed my friend as a shield, and I was emptying, and I emptied the whole clip on him. Like, I was trying to just get this guy. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, whatever. My man's in the back, with the guns, and I wound up hitting my own friend. I mean, by mistake. Because I didn't want to hit him. You know what I mean? So he used him as a shield, the guy, and that's where that murder took place. And it was the street code. Remember, the street code was whatever. Nobody really said nothing. And that was in 1990. One of my friends got arrested for it, and he beat it because it wasn't him, right? He got arrested for it, and he did like a year for it, went to trial, beat it because it wasn't him. So in 1996, 1997, actually, that's when they indicted me. 7 years later.
Who snitched?
One of my friends. A few friends, actually. A few of my friends, you know, they got arrested for, well, actually, the crew that I'm talking about, the Power Rules, they were still active, right? While I was in jail all these years, 5, 6 years in jail. They were still active. They had they was getting bigger actually. They was getting even bigger, more money. You know, they was doing bigger things. They wound up having a shootout with the DEA. They had a shootout with the DEA over some drugs or some shit, right? They had a shootout, and from that's where all the snitching started. You know, people got arrested. That's when all the snitching started, and they started talking about things that happened back in the days. You know, because then because now they got an indictment on the gang Power Rules. It's like a racketeering, like, you know, like the Gambinos, the Colombo, whatever. So now they got us like that. So now they start asking questions. Yo, who's this? Who's that? Who started this? Who was the lieutenant? You know, now they start categorizing you lieutenants and this, which is not true because we never categorize ourselves like that. But that's how they start now. You know, they categorize captains, lieutenants, who's the leader, who's this. And then people snitching like, yo, this dude's this guy's that. And that's how that turned out. They wound up getting me, you know, for...
How long they gave you?
So when they gave me that, they indicted me for that. It was a federal case now. I was in the state doing the 9 years. The time that I was doing the 9 years was state time. So when they indicted me for this racketeering was a federal case now. So the federal case, so now they take me and put me in a federal prison in MCC, which at the time is the detainee in Manhattan. They send me there, and they you know, the process of indictment, going to court. I wound up staying there for like about a year and a half, fighting that case, and they wound up coming to me with a cop out for 20 years. So the lawyer I had was pretty good. It wasn't a paid lawyer, but he was a good lawyer. So he you know, he was giving me the best advice. So he was like, listen, this is the best I could do for you, brother. You got already like 5, 6 years in. I'm gonna be able, he said, I could get you 20 years running concurrent. You know, not running concurrent, you know, running with that's gonna count the 6 years that you got in. So it's either that or go to trial. If I lose, it's life. So there's not a real choice to make that. Like, you know what? I go do another 16 years. I mean, like at the time, I'm like, fuck it. I know what I've done. You know what I mean? It's not like they was just giving me crimes. I know what I've done. You know what I mean? So I got to be a man and, you know, and then weigh the options, right? And at the same time, I weigh the options of me being in jail the rest of my life, fighting to get freedom, or just be smart enough to, you know, take this cop out and be a man. That's it. Take it like a man and come out one day. And that's what I'm doing here now. You know what I mean? Like, because if I would have not, I would have got life. Like a lot of my friends that got life.
I could imagine you being in that situation, and then telling you you're about to get extra 20 years.
That was rough.
And think about, okay, now I have to rethink everything in jail now again.
No, it was crazy. It was my home. Like I said, it became
like,
my life.
This is 20 years if I get out. Because now you're like, damn, the chance of me getting out alive.
Anything. No, it could be anything. Yeah.
It could be so many things. Yeah. So now your strategy and everything had to change even more drastic. Or your family.
No, imagine. So it hurts your family. That's number one, first and foremost. Your family is hurt because imagine my mother, only real family I had was my mother and father, you know, my sisters, nieces, and nephews. You know, I didn't have no wife and kids and nothing at the time, so it was really, it's a kid.
Yeah.
But imagine, I just wanted to get home to my mother and my father. I just wanted to get home, period, right or wrong. So.
But let me ask you a question, man. Being in prison, because, you know, everybody wants to go home. Nobody wants to be there, regardless how situation. You want to get out of there.
Of course.
But when situation like that, like yours happened, that they give you an extra 20 years, as much as you want to go home, you become numbed to the situation as well, correct?
Of course. No.
So you're like, 20 years, whatever. You want to leave now. It sucks. You hate it. You get angry, but you're numbed about the situation. Is that something correct? Like, you don't look at it that way, like 20 years, you're crazy, or no?
So let me explain the way I feel about it. So for me, per se, like I said, at this point, I'm already a criminal, right? I'm already, in my mind, it's like, again, if you went to school to be a lawyer, right? You go to another 4 years of school, right? You become a better lawyer or whatever, doctor, you get another doctorate or you get whatever. So me, all this did was further me as a criminal.
Yeah.
You get it? In the life that I live, you know, and the people around, the people that I'm around, that the criminals that I, you know, that we together, all it did was further my position as a criminal.
Yeah.
You get it? So what happens with that is, you know, deep down inside, of course you hurt. Like me personally, of course I'm, you know, like I go to my cell by myself, like you said, devastated. I go to my cell, I cry.
Yeah.
On the low, but I don't let nobody see me crying. You know what I'm saying? Like to them, it's like, yeah, whatever. I take 20 years. It's all good. It ain't nothing to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, But deep down inside, I go to my cell at night or whatever. I think about certain things, like if my mother gets sick or my father got sick or something happened in the streets that I'm not, that's when you be like, nah, I wish I was there. You know what I mean? Like for my family. And it definitely hurts. But when you choose this life, or you choose the life that I lived once, and you know what you have done, and you know that at the end of the day, your only way is to get out of this, right? If you're not going to snitch on somebody to get out of it, then your only way to get out of it is either find a way to cop out, to at least to see daylight one day again. You get it? That was my mentality. Because again, I was already, like you said, kind of numb. It was already numb because this was my life. So by the time they gave me the 20, I already had 7 years in. So it was kind of like, I'm used to it. It hurt it because I was thinking of coming out in 2 years. Now I'm not coming out to 12 years. It's a big pill to swallow. But in my mentality and the way I kept myself going was that as long as the sun don't burn out, right, I'm going to get there again. You know what I'm trying to say? And if I take the 20 instead of taking the life, that's another step, that I'm going to come out here again. And that's the way I thought about it. You know what I mean? That's what kept me going.
Yeah.
That I'm going to make it again. As long as the water don't run dry, as long as, everything stays the same, I'm going to get here again. And sure enough, I'm here.
I couldn't imagine putting myself in a situation right now.
It's hard. I would never advise, anyone to go through that. You know what I mean? Like crazy. And it was never easy for me.
No, I bet.
Never easy, but I had to do it. And at the same time, what I did have on my side was my youth.
Yeah.
Because, when you're young, you're dumb, right? Like, you're younger, you're dumber. Like, you do dumber shit, and you could withstand. Like, for example, if I had to go back do 20 years today, it would be a lot different than the way I did back then. I would probably feel it different. Now I'm a little more spoiled. I live, a little better. I know what it is now to be out here, have good things, to eat in the finest restaurants. Yeah. You know what I mean? To go back now, it's gonna hurt. It's a difference.
It's not even your mindset.
Yeah, definitely not. No. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like back then, I was a criminal. I come from that, so it was nothing. You know what I mean? Like it was just every day.
So now 20 years in jail, definitely your mindset changes, your everything, your perspective, and everything. What's going on, man? The amount of stories. So now, because now you have to survive, the survival game, the moving things around, moving drugs, extortions. Tell me a story of people that you had to defend yourself, because I know you had times you had to fight
definitely,
and things that kind of extend out. I know there's hundreds of stories.
Oh yeah, definitely hundreds.
But I know there's always that 2-3 stories that stand out during those 20 years, or 5 stories probably.
Yeah. So basically, as far as my whole prison stretch, right? Coming from Rikers Island, that's a whole struggle in itself, the Rikers Island, because you got to fight just to get on the phone. Yeah. You got to fight just to be able to wear your own clothes without anybody looking at it and want to take it from you. So that alone right there, that's a struggle, just living that. Imagine that 365 days a week. Yeah. I mean, a year. You know what I'm saying? Every day, 7 days of the week, living this life. So that's a life, in itself, a story in itself, as far as having to always fight and hold your own. But after a while, then, they know that you fight for yourself and you are holding your own, so people respect you.
So if definitely in jail, you cannot just say, oh no, I just want peace. I don't want that. Doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. Peace, if you come with that mentality, I want peace, then it's okay. Here's the peace. Make sure you get this list in commissary. Make sure I like those. Let me get those. That's the only way peace exists. You know what I'm saying? Like, if somebody doesn't want to fight,
and if you start giving, they're going to ask for more. It's never going to stop.
It never stops. It gets worse.
Because
they're going to leave you butt naked. Like, for example, your nice shoes, they're going to take them. You're going to get another pair of nice shoes, they're going to take those too. So they're going to have you barefooted.
So those people that are going with a mentality, no, I'm just going to have my peace. I'm going to live my life in a corner. Nah.
Not if they're, again, you have these guys, these white collar crimes, I guess you call it, these white collar guys that maybe go to jail and go straight to a camp. Maybe they got peace, because these places they go straight to, there is no materialistic things like their own clothes, their jewelry, or nothing. You know what I'm trying to say? They already state issued, or, these type of issues. So there is a little more peace, because they go to these places that everybody there is the same mentality. You get it? But where I come from,
that's how there's such thing as a white collar prison, right?
Yeah, like them camps. That's what I mean. Like camps, that they do have that for people that,
low violence.
Yeah, no violence and things like that. So at the end of the day, those are people that might just be able to go somewhere and might just be able to walk out unscathed, without a problem or something.
But when you go in that kind of jail, you got to go in.
No, when you go to Rikers Island, you got to go in from the gate. You got to come with the mentality of either you're going to be a wolf or you're going to be a sheep. That's it. It's that simple. Wolf or sheep.
There's a perspective that you're going to be fighting weekly or monthly, or it gets to a rhythm that you don't get into those arguments no more, because they know, Like it's already a rhythm within the jail. They know, hey, William, we're gonna mess with him. He's doing his thing. You mess with him, he's gonna fight
That's
back.
it. That's the only way. But you have to show. Again, it's more than one fight though.
Yeah.
It's not just you fight once and that's it. No, you got to fight, and then that's that instance. You fought for your sneakers. Okay, you fought for yours. Now you're gonna have to fight for your jacket. Next thing you know, you're gonna have to fight to get on the phone.
What about those people that want to fight, dude? They're fighting back, but they're not winning the fights, dude.
Everybody don't win, because that's another thing. You don't have to win. You just got to be able to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
You get it? So like I said, so many different things you got to stand up for. It's either the phone, it's for your clothes, for your food. I seen guys take bullpen sandwiches, which we call bologna and cheese sandwiches, from guys because they so soft and they don't fight for theirs, right? So a guy will take their bologna sandwich and be like, man, you're not even eating that.
That's when you start seeing things differently. And I think about those, I think about those situations, those moments in life. You go back, you're there already 15 years deep, and you start thinking about you when you were 15, 16. The regret or the things that went through your mind in different aspects, did that end up happening at that moment? Or those regrets happening after you get out of jail, or when you had a different mindset? Because I know when the beginning of coming to jail, you don't have those regrets. You don't thinking about that. That usually happens towards the end.
No, you regret that you got caught. That's all you regret, right? That you got arrested, you got caught. You're like, man, I got caught. That's what you regret.
But the regret came to your life at some point of like, shit, I should have not done that. I should have taken a bath pass. Damn, how stupid I was. I cannot believe. When did that moment came to you?
So let me tell you like this. So to be honest with you, if I tell you like how I feel now, like how I look back at everything, I regret every moment of everything I did. If I'm telling you sitting here now, from everything that I went through, that I regret every moment.
Because it took away from your life.
Yeah, I regret every moment. To be honest with you, I'm not proud of nothing, of anything that I did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because again, I tell you about my prison life. I was again, you see how I look, the way I am. I'm not 6 feet tall. I'm not 300-pound pure muscles, but I held it down. I was in all penitentiaries, and I was all over in the state and in the feds, and I held it down. Like I said, I've been stabbed, I've been cut. I fought with the biggest gangs, you know what I'm saying? Against them, by side, their side, against, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I've been through so many roles. So what I'm trying to say is, in my whole life, if I look back now, and I tell you as a man, I look in your eyes, I regret everything that I've done, brother, from the streets to my whole time until the day I came out again, until the day that I came home in 2011, I regret every moment. You get what I'm saying? Every moment.
But during prison, those didn't happen that way.
But while you in there, you can't have that thought. You got to just now figure out how to move and become stronger.
Did it cross to your mind?
Always. It always, at the moment, like the words I say now, like I regret it, I never thought of it like that. Because again, this was who I was.
Yeah.
I knew the crimes that I committed. It's not like they gave me a crime that I didn't commit. I did every last one of them, and probably there's 10 of them they didn't catch me for. You know what I'm trying to say? So I was realistic as to what I'm doing here.
When you're about to get out, but you have these connections, and you're like, damn, I have a year to go. Now your mind is running. I have a couple of months to go. So how's that happening? That like when you have a couple of months that you're gonna, dude, I bet anxiety.
So imagine. So put yourself in my place, that a guy that came to jail at the age of 18, because I went to jail at the age of 18. That was it. I never seen the street since. At the age of 18, I went in. When you talking about my time to come home, I was already 38. You get it? So just imagine that whole gap in your life. And not only that you went through what I told you, what I've been through, being in prison, this and that.
Yeah.
But still in all, I made it that far, and I stood up as a man.
Yeah.
I never been, ain't nobody could say they raped me. I ain't never, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you didn't get raped, huh?
Ain't no American me, none of that. You know what I'm saying? Thank the Lord. Nobody could say, yo, this dude Will, we was taking his commissary. Nothing. Anybody you hear about me is gonna tell you I'm a real man in all aspects of the word. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Gentleman.
A gentleman and a gentleman. You know what I'm saying? So at the same time, imagine, not being in the streets all these years, and then all the things that I missed. Imagine what I missed: the internet, the phones, you know what I'm saying? These things. And now it comes to me again at 18 years old. I went away. I don't really have no real skills, because what jail offered me, I got a GED. Yeah, I'm a little, I got a little head on my shoulders. I ain't no real dummy, but I got enough common sense, comprehension that I could do anything. But in reality, what could I have done at that time? I had no skills, no resumes. Coming home at 38, I'm only coming home to rely on my mother, because that's the only person.
So 38, but talk to me about the first, like the last months about to get out. Like, what was going through your mind? The feeling, the knowing that, damn, I'm about to get out. Like, I couldn't mess it up. Like, Did anybody try to come against you, try to disrupt that?
In there.
For you
as
not
far
to
in
get out?
there.
Yeah.
So thank God I didn't have that because, again, thank the Lord that regardless of what we hear about people in jail being a bunch of fucking crabs in a bucket, right? But it's true. A lot of people were happy for me. A lot of people were happy. Remember, I'm one of theirs.
Yeah.
They seen coming home 20 years. It's not like a guy that came in and did a year.
Yeah.
Man, I'm 20 years, man. They if anything, they're rooting for me. They're happy for me. And
Yeah.
I had a lot of good guys that were with me that would be like, yo, bro, anything pops off, let me handle it for you. You going home, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And these are the guys that to this day, 13 years, I still send money to guys in prison. To this day. I never forgot my peoples. To this day. I still send money to my friends in jail, more than one person. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, back to that. So when I had that that I was coming home, the feeling was definitely one of anxiety, like you said, because I didn't know what I was gonna get into. The reality of the matter is I didn't know what to expect out here. Other than my mother gonna look out for me, buy me some clothes, my nephew Glenn probably gonna buy me some clothes, you know, something like that. But in reality, none of them was in a position to put me, you know, and get me in a job or employment. So, you know, so the anxiety of getting on my feet.
Yeah, so you're like, damn, am I gonna end up back? Am I going back to the street world? Am I going to be able to get a job? But you don't want to get a job too because you don't want to be, because you know.
I didn't know what I'm saying is at the time it was anxiety, but it was of indecisiveness because at the same time I didn't know what I was going to get into because again, I didn't have anything to get in. It's not like if I was all these years and I got a PhD that I know I'm going to come home and be a doctor. You get it? I'm going to come home to be whatever I could be.
Yeah.
With no direct, you know, with no clear path.
Yeah.
You get it? It's just coming home and see what I could get into. You know, and again, the whole time there, it was just, you know, happy to come. Imagine after, you know, at the moment, you just want to get home. Because the first thing that you're really thinking about is women. Because you don't need money or nothing to get women. So I'm like, man, I just can't wait to get home so I can hit son. You know what I mean? Get me a woman. I just can't wait for that. You know what I mean? Like, no, that was the mentality. But the being on my feet thing was something that, you know, was always, imagine 38 years old. I'm a man though. It's not no longer a kid. So I'm like, damn, but what I'm really going to do to get on my feet though, like, I don't have no skills.
So what miracle happened to you, brother? So, because a lot of people don't run to these miracles. A lot of people don't run into the situation. And this is the part that a lot of people that have been in your shoes or are about to get out of jail, and they're probably looking at this podcast from jail right now. And they're trying to say, okay, so how can I not land back in this situation? And that's the story that I want to start talking about. I want to talk about the stories like who do you met, what do you did, what proactive things, and not only that part of trying to get a job and everything. Like, you have to understand, you have to reprogram your mind. You have to reprogram your thought process. You have to start thinking, okay, what do I don't know that not knowing of?
Imagine nothing.
So it's 1,000 things collapsing into your brain. Imagine. So your brain is in constantly at.
No, it was crazy. It was
disruption.
It was like you said, overload. It was overload. So think about it like this. Let me just give you a quick example. If somebody goes to jail today, right? Mm-hmm. Or let's just say if somebody went to jail 2001, and they came home 2021. That's still 20 years.
Yeah.
But the only difference between them and me, that the 20 years that they doing, in that time, they already experienced internet, experienced cell phones, you know, these WhatsApps. They already experienced that. So when I went to jail in 92, there was nothing. Cell phones like that. You know, remember the big ones, but it wasn't like that. So not everybody had those. You know what I mean? So
you left an analog world to a digital world.
So I left the world like that. Exactly. That's a perfect example. So a world that I didn't know what internet was, a world that there was no phones the way it is now, texting, you know, so to come home and see that was my biggest like thing that messed up my mind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
what was the first step and how do you, because you went through the funk time, I'm guessing, or you had a connection that put you in a job.
No, I got lucky.
So talk, I don't want to say lucky because I don't think there's no such thing as luck. Let's just start with that.
No, there's no such thing. So the reason I say lucky because the luck came in that when I came home, I didn't have a job, right? I didn't have nowhere to go, the job, nobody was going to put me on.
Yeah.
But what I did was get in touch with one of my friends that was in prison with me, that he did like 20 years, an Italian friend of mine, and he was home already. So I wound up calling him, right, to see what was my options. I was in a halfway house again. Remember, I was there the first time that I went back to jail. This time I was in a halfway house, and I was trying to do the right thing, though. I mean, it was in my mind, definitely. I'm not going back in jail in 1 month.
Yeah.
I'm going to give myself a chance this time, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, or so I thought, right? So, or that's what I'm thinking anyway. So what happened was that a guy that I met in prison was a friend of mine. He did a lot of time. He came home, and he was connected, I guess, in the streets. You know, he had people in the construction world or whatever. So I gave him a call. I was like, yo, man, what's up? How you doing? Oh, shit. He was like, you home? I was like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, yo, do you know anybody hiring a construction job? Because remember, prisoners come out of jail in my case, the first thing that's always available to them is right construction jobs and things like that. So he wound up telling me, listen, I got a friend of mine's that just opened up a construction company, whatever. He's looking for people. I could put you on. I said, hell yeah. So he gave me a number. I called him, and I met the guy, and I met him, and he said, listen, I can't offer you much, but I gotta, you could be a laborer, paying $15 an hour. You know what I mean? Whatever. And I was happy. I was like, shit, hell yeah, I'll take anything at this point. Right? But I was home only 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, so that was a blessing though. It wasn't like I was home, a long time struggling. I was home 2 or 3 weeks and this opportunity presented itself. You know what I mean?
What was the process of those 2, 3 weeks? You were just relaxing at the moment?
Yeah. So 2 or 3 weeks, I was trying to see what I was going to get myself into.
You were happy, huh? During those 3 weeks.
I was just happy to be home. I'm girlfriends with get a girl here, there, whatever, enjoying my life. You know what I'm saying? And trying to see what I was going to get myself into. And to tell you the truth, I almost got caught back up in the streets. Because the first thing that came to me was the streets, the offer. It was an offer of drugs. And I ain't going to lie. And I almost took it because I said to myself, I said, you know what? I don't got nothing, bro. I said, man, if I could make this deal with this dude and the way it looks, if I could just make a little 10, 20,000, bro, this should have put me on my feet. That's the way I was thinking at the moment. Yeah. I had nothing. All I had was my mother gave me, and what anybody gave me, I had nothing. I was, the truth, zero. I ain't even had a bank account. So imagine, fuck zero. I ain't even had a bank account. So, you know what I'm saying? So that was on my mind. So to get into that real quick, because it's in my book also. So what happened was, I met some friends, right? Old friends that was still in the game and still doing what they do. And they offered this to me. I said, you know what? Let me see if I could get involved. You know what I mean? With this. And they gave me a little package. So I got a little package. I tried to get involved. This was the first interaction. I gave it to a friend of mine. I gave him, let's just say it was like $3,000 or $4,000 worth of drugs. I said, yo, here, we're going to split this, whatever, me and you, let's do this. Brother, when it was time to bring back the money, he gave me a story.
Yeah.
Yo, somebody stole the money, this and that. A story. When I'm looking at this dude, I said to myself, I said, nah, man, I'm gonna have to fuck my man up. I'm gonna have to do something to him, right? Because now I owe somebody $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man. So I did it. I was like in a position like I don't know. I'm gonna have to make an example out of my own friend because that's the truth. If you get in the drug game or you get into any illegal activities, you got to make examples out of people in order to get respect. You know what I'm saying? Right or wrong? So that's what I thought right there. I said, nah, I'm gonna have to make an example of my own friend. I mean, to show that I'm not playing and how I'm gonna come at this dude now with the money. So what I went to the dude, I was like, listen, man, I fucked up. I gave my man the shit and he didn't give me the money. What you wanna do, bro? I'll pay you back little by little, whatever, however. And he was like, yo, forget about it. I mean, it was a little deeper than that. I'm just making the story shorter. But he was like, yo, you know what? Forget about it, bro, because I know you're a good dude, and I know you would never do this. You know what I'm saying? So let's forget about it. He said, you want to keep moving on? I said, nah, bro. That was a lesson right there. So that was a lesson that I needed. That was the lesson that told me, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to give my all to this $15 an hour job. I'm saying that was what I needed. And at the end of the day, that's what I did. From that moment on, I gave my all to the job. You know what I mean? And the same construction job, laborer.
How do you stay focused in that?
It was hard, man, because again, like I said, what was hard about it was to have nothing, right? To have nothing, to be out here at 38 years old. You don't got your own crib. You don't got nothing. I still live in my mother's. At the time, I come home to my mother's crib. Yeah. It's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, but knowing where you come from, that you did 19 years, you know that you got to take your time, though. I mean, and then I got lucky because, again,
there's a lot of people. Dude, listen to me. There's a lot of guys out there. Same situation.
It's true.
And what can I do to stay away out of jail? You did 20 years. I need help. I'm in my parents' house right now. I need to do something. What advice can you give someone in that particular moment? Because I know there's a lot of things, a lot of steps to.
No, a lot of steps.
But right now, in that particular, just got out of jail. And I'm in my first 90 days. What can I do mentally? Because you're going to need, there's a lot of guys that want to get a job.
No.
And you're going to get a job. Yeah, it's really hard. Do you have a record?
Yeah, it's hard.
What advice do you give them in the aspect, probably be on the job, like as a person?
As a person, yeah. You got to have that in you. What you got to have in that situation, you got to have the determination to want to succeed without going back to the street life. That's the key. To be able to get yourself in a $15 an hour job, right? And want to take that to the next level. Because there's no other way, right? Unless you're going to go back to the streets.
Because it must be frustrating, dude. Getting out of jail and then getting a $17 job, $15 job. It's hard, dude, mentally. Dude, I wonder how much, because you're a grown-ass man making teenager kids.
Yeah, what you're really bringing in. That's exactly, you see that right there? Yeah. You're a grown man making little kid money. Because these are for kids that still live with their parents that are just trying to elevate themselves to get another
just
job.
To pay their cell phone.
Exactly, something like that. So that was my life. So it was hard. It was hard. It was hard to swallow that
how do you overcome that mentally? How do you overcome that, dude? That step.
No, the way you overcome that and the way I overcame it, right? Me personally was, again, after, thank God, like I said, I'm not perfect, right? I'm not here claiming that I'm perfect. I almost made the mistake that I'm trying to tell people to not commit. You get it? That's what it took me to have to see that again one more time, even though I'm a dummy, for having to do 19 years and come home and go through it again. You get it? So let's be real. That makes me a dummy.
Yeah.
You get it? But the Lord blessed me and didn't allow me to go down with that move. And the Lord put me in another path. So I took it that way. And I said, you know what? God put me in this position for a reason. So I took that little job and I did the best. You know, I worked. I just worked for it. I didn't expect the job to turn out to anything else. I just expected to, you know, make a paycheck at the end of the week. And while I'm doing that, I'm trying to find my way, right? Trying to see what I could do better to get $18 an hour, you know, to get more. Because at the moment, this is all I have. So the only way that anyone could overcome that is to know that you will not get what you lost overnight. You get it? That is going to be a long, steady climb, right? Because if you don't win it through a lottery, through a number, or nothing like that, you're going to have to work for it, and you're going to have to get in a position that you could get into, like me. The only skill I ever had was, actually, it wasn't not even a skill, a laborer, just picking up garbage, you know, debris and throw it in bags, and you get it?
It was hope, I think, that what kept you moving. Because you think about it, like, you probably don't have an understanding of the future or what's going to happen with me, where this job is going to happen. But I think if you don't have a clear understanding of your future, I'll keep moving forward and be afraid of going back to your past. Hey, I don't have a clear understanding of my future, but I don't want to go back to where I was. So even I don't have a clear understanding of my future, I'm going to keep moving forward.
Yeah, because it's
and my attitude and my action of trying to move forward, looking for something, I will find it. In life, in my opinion, dude, whatever you put your mind, you're going to find it. If you go into the street and you don't want to do a drug, you're going to find the drugs, you're going to find the people, you're going to find everything, and you're going to end up in jail. The results always end up with the same result. You end up in jail, killing someone, someone killing. That is the result. Always. Doesn't matter how great you are. 5 years, 10 years down the line, you're going to find yourself in a bad situation.
That's true.
That's just the fact of it.
Consequences are, like you just said, either death or jail, no matter what it takes, 10 years or 20 years.
How great you are, doesn't matter. Do you have people like Falcon, a boss?
A billionaire.
He ended up in jail too.
And did 30 years a billionaire. So it's true. There's no
way around that. So if someone should take something out of this, if you don't understand your future, be afraid of your past.
That's real. That's deep.
If you do not understand your future, be afraid of your past.
That's real.
And that should be motivational enough to continue forward.
That's true. And that makes a lot of sense, because that's the truth. Whether at the time I thought that way or not, that's exactly what kept me moving. I was afraid of my past. I didn't want to go back to jail.
You just kept moving.
So you didn't know
You didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what? And my advice, my second advice that I will give people that are listening to this right now, push hard and gain knowledge through the process. Look for the knowledge. Get into construction. I'm going to tell you something, dude. If you get out of jail, open an LLC. Open a little company. And that doesn't take a lot.
Nah.
Start cutting grass.
Anything.
Do anything. And that will give you the motivation for the next thing. Learn business. Get with a CPA. Remember, you don't know all the knowledge, but there's people out there that have the knowledge. You don't know finance. Look for a CPA. Look for someone that does finance. Hey, I want to cut grass. Get a little machine. Start with a little dumpster, a little pickup truck, and start knocking on doors. Hey, $45 a month, and I'll cut your grass. And you go from one house, second house, 3 houses, 10 houses, 20 houses.
So it's 100 houses, whatever.
And by the time you notice, by building something like that, it gives birth to your purpose.
I was afraid of my past. That's why I did everything and worked hard and harder just to get ahead.
If you just got a prison or you're trying to get out from the trenches, you're in the trenches, you're in the Bronx right now, you're in Liberty City, you're in Miami, you're in Chicago right now, and you want to get out of the life, open a company. And that word company sounds scary. Open a LLC, a limited liability company. Open that and make things happen. You go to YouTube, listen to me, you go to YouTube and they'll tell you how to open a company, and they'll give you step by step by step, and you're gonna be surprised how easy it is. I'm like, okay, I want to open a company, but I don't know how to do nothing. I only know how to do, I only know how to do is sell drugs and everything. Whatever. Well, you know how to sell now.
That's it. You're
a sales guy. You have a skill.
You got a skill. Yep.
And there's a lot of companies out there, they're looking for salespeople. And usually 100% of them are 1099. Learn how to sell roof, air condition, solar, and you will have a career for life. You will bring money to the table. If you're someone that is struggling, get an LLC so you can have a 1099 and learn a trade. You sell drugs already, baby. Now start selling something that actually make money and make it legit.
Sure.
Start selling roof work. Look for a roofing company. Look for a water mitigation company. Look for a solar company, an HVAC company. And believe me, once you do that, I want you guys to send me a message, and you're going to see how your life is going to change.
Sure.
That's my biggest advice. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. It's going to be okay, dude. True. And the career is going to grow. I know people that have zero knowledge, that have come into the roofing world, zero understanding on the trench, eating garbage, became salespeople. They were like, David, I have no plan B, no plan C. I don't got nothing to lay down. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to succeed. They got in the construction world, so they didn't have nothing to lose. They went all in.
Yeah, that's it.
You go all in. Go all in 1,000%. First year, $80,000, $150,000. Talking about a different situation. People that made the first year $80,000, $150,000. I have seen people with zero experience, disturbing background, $200,000, but hungry and afraid of the past. And they start creating a career. Now they know how to send emails. They are able to communicate because they're very good at communicating. They know how to finagle. They know how to sell. They're in the street at nighttime, daytime. They're not afraid of saying no. They're not scared. They're being in jail for many times. Dude, go into sell. Become a realtor. Do sales for construction.
No, you got a skill. Like you said, you already got a skill.
You already have a skill.
Yeah, you sell drugs.
I'm telling you, this part of it will change your life.
That's true.
So you got into construction world, correct?
Yep.
And your life changed drastically.
But time, like you said, put in the work.
Didn't happen overnight.
No, definitely not.
Did not happen overnight.
I went through a lot
so
that.
Take people through the process for your experience, take people through the process. Like, dude, it took me a year to get out of the $14, or 2 years, 3 years. More. Yeah. How long did it take you to get out of the teenager salary?
So the bottom line is, when you come again, where I come from, that you did 19 years in prison, that you went to jail at the age of 18, to get a job is already a big accomplishment. Yeah. To come out here and to have a job is an accomplishment. Yeah. So everybody around you, like my nephews, my mother, to them is an accomplishment, right? They're like, oh my God, you got a job, you out here working.
Yeah.
Whether it's $15 an hour or not, to them is like, wow, at least you got something, at least you're showing. So with me, little by little, it took a lot, because I was definitely not so enthused every day to go to work, and with this, at the end of the week, my check
happens. So, but you keep going.
No, but
and that's the situation with a lot of people that get out of jail. They don't have the drive to continue.
That's
forward.
the problem.
Because listen to me, I forgot what was the percentage of people that leave prison. They'll usually end up back where they came from.
They say a big percentage,
a huge
about
percentage.
75% of people that come out go right back in the first year.
And you said something very critical, that there was time you were not motivated. You didn't want to go to work. You're going through PTSD. You're going through a lot of emotional things, remember, dude. It's a different world you left behind, dude.
It's a whole different world, number one. Number two, I'm going to a job that at the end of the day, at the end of the week, my check was like $300 or $400 a week.
And you're like, what am I going to do with this?
Oh, man, like, how could I get an apartment? How could I ever get on my feet with this? Like, this is just good enough to buy groceries in my mom's crib, right or wrong, while I'm staying there. But in reality,
you kept going.
But I kept going, because at the end of the day, this is all I had. And the only place to go from there was back to the streets.
Yeah.
So I already made that choice, like, nah, I'm not going back to the streets, man. So little by little.
Despite how you were feeling, You were putting the work.
I was putting the work because, again, I had to get.
You didn't want to be there, but you were putting the work. What was your work ethic? Even that you said that you hated it at the moment. Yeah, there was something you didn't want to. But how was your work ethic? And be honest.
Good. My work ethic was always good, and to this day, it's still the same. I've never changed as far as my work ethic. And at the moment, like you said, I didn't want to get up, but that's just a feeling that I have for myself because, again, I am a 38-year-old man. You know what I'm saying? No matter how you put it, even though everything was new to me and everything, like I said, a Big Mac and a shake was something new to me. So the fact that I had a job was something new to me because even in jail, I didn't work.
And the reason that I'm asking this specific question, William, is because people are going through this right now.
No.
And I like to dissect the emotional part, the psychological part behind of such a traumatic situation that happened to you for so many years.
Hard.
So that's why I'm asking you this specific question for a reason. So you say your ethic work was good, it was strong. Definitely. You will say it was strong
because
was consistent. There was week that you like it was a C.
It was consistent, and it was my my work ethic was strong. It was just me inside that I was like, man. You know
Do you had an asshole of a manager?
Nah, he was cool.
It was a cool dude. Make things as easier.
Yeah, it was making. I never have no problem with him. I might have had one or two situations, like somebody might have
didn't discourage you.
But that's nothing. Yeah, but never discouraged me to the point that I was like, I'm gonna quit. Fuck that. If I quit, I'm only hurting them. I mean, I'm only hurting myself. I'm not hurting them. Right or wrong. So it was never to that point. But again, like I said, so now the fact that he recognizes me and gives me a little raise and puts me in a better position now. It gives me a reason to get up more now.
If you're trying to get out of the trenches and you're trying to grow in life, I hate when I see people online, they're talking about, you only working 9 to 5, don't do more than that. Screw that. That's a bad attitude.
That's a bad attitude.
That's a bad advice.
That's a bad attitude.
Because all you're doing is hurting yourself. You think you're hurting the company. You're not. You're hurting yourself because you're
gonna walk away. He walk away regardless.
Yes.
You're hurting yourself.
You're hurting yourself because you're creating now these emotional habits and these habits towards your work career. It's really bad. So attitude is everything, dude. Especially if you're trying to get out of the trenches, you're trying to get out of those $15, $18, or $20 an hour right now, dude. You have to come in with a great attitude, and great attitude takes you far. Especially we're living in a time when we're dealing with humans, we're dealing with people. We're in a people's time, and if you don't understand that, you're going to have a hard time growing. And you, without knowing, you went in there with the right attitude.
That's it. Just
you working your ass off.
That's the only.
You were not, cursing what you had at the moment.
I was grateful.
You were grateful, and that goes a long way, dude.
I was super grateful.
That goes a long way at a spiritual level, at a personal level, and then when you as a boss, and me, I'm an owner of a company too, many companies,
sure
and I have seen people that have the best attitude. And they have not the best knowledge, but they have the best attitude.
That carries them.
Dude, listen to me. I'm like, I could work with that. That attitude, I'll work with that attitude. Because that attitude, we could learn. We could teach them. And he could grow. And I have seen guys in our company go from making little money to great positions. You get me? And that attitude.
Because like you said, the attitude.
That attitude that you have, William, that's an attitude people need to have, especially trying to get out of the trench.
It's the truth.
Trying to get out of the hole.
You notice it, and that's the truth.
You get me? That attitude, William, takes people farther than anything else. So you had an attitude, which is a good attitude, optimistic attitude. Hey, let me handle business. Yeah. You're the boss. You give me an opportunity. Definitely. I'm going to handle my business.
Like I just said, and like you're saying, I was given the opportunity. I'm appreciative. The attitude was, like you said, it was perfect. And all it did was help me get in a position. So when the man gave me the extra $3, like I said, it meant so much that it came from the boss, that he recognized me, and that he put me in a position of more trust. Yeah. Because now I'm the one that's doing the time for the men, taking the in and outs. I'm taking, inventory of the tool rooms, the tools. That's a responsibility of trust. Yeah. And for him to give it to me meant a lot. You know what I'm saying? So in my heart, it meant a lot. So now I'm going to do the best I can with that position. Right or wrong. So now little by little, that position, all it did was help me elevate more and more. Yeah. And sure enough, I left the construction field, as far as being a laborer, and he put me in the concrete plant. Yeah. And he said, yo, I'm going to pay you $1,000 salary.
This is great.
And for me.
Yeah, at the moment.
It was super great.
All I see is you going up.
So that's it. So I'm going up. And now the $1,000 to me, because now we could talk about getting my own apartment. Yeah. Now we're in a situation that we could,
Adult conversation.
Now we in adult conversation. And what was blessed too is that at the time I met a girl that was a good girl at the time. Not my wife today. I'm married to a different woman. But at the time I met a good girl that she was also, working, doing her thing, had a good head on the shoulders. And she helped me because with her half and my half, together we got a nice apartment, we got our nice cars, and we was elevating. And he helped me get a license, which is a concrete safety manager's license. You know what I mean? He helped me get that, and that license right there changed my life. It's a 6-figure salary.
Now you're making money.
So then that's when I started my life change. You know what I'm saying? My life changed, and that's when I started seeing real money, good money. I'm still a worker. I don't own nothing. I ain't own the company or nothing, but I was still,
you're making great money.
I'm making good money, bro. I'm like,
Think about if you would have listened to those advice in the street or in TikTok or Instagram, social media, you see that, hey, screw the company. They're not going to do what they're going to do. But you had a different attitude that it took you away from.
No, it took my life because I was working 60, 70 hours a week, brother.
Yeah,
the first,
it
that
changed everything, man.
I didn't have a life.
Changes everything.
But that was my life.
And listen to me, you were doing it for the company, but you were doing it for yourself.
Of course.
You wanted to have a better future for yourself. Of course. You wanted to move out of your apartment. You want a better car. You like the good stuff.
That's true.
You had a taste of the good life.
Of course.
You had a good life. So if I want to get back to the good life, I need to take care of me. Taking care of me, I'm going to take care of the company because that's going to pay me. And I'm going to grow.
And that's what my mentality is.
Does every company take care of people like that? No. Make sure that who you're working for is a person with the right attitude.
That's true.
That's taking care of people, that people are growing, and that the company is growing. If you find that kind of company, dude,
that's what you got to stick with.
Things happen. That's my advice.
No, that's a fact.
That's a fact.
The truth. A good advice.
Listen to me. That is a fact, man. That is a fact. So, man, you got to a point in your life now. You're making great money now. Your life is changed. That persistency to move better, to do better, to be hungry.
I'm getting licenses now.
It got your mind out of the gutter. It got your mind out of thinking the streets. It got your mind out of the crazy.
I never thought about it since, for years. Forget the streets is like, what? It's a movie. Like,
it become like a, that actually, there's a phenomenon that actually like your mind start erasing a lot of that. Even you have memory, but
no, it's true.
Now it becomes like so far away.
No, it's the truth.
So far away, it's like because your future, you're so focused so much in your present to achieve see your future,
to achieve more,
to protect your future, that your past started diminishing.
Yeah, it's already.
So don't live in the past.
It's true.
Work in your future, and how do you work in your future to make sure you're taking care of your present?
It's true.
That's a fact, man. Yep. So you did something incredible, which I love and I respect that. You went out there. You went from, like the book says, from burning blocks to building blocks. And you're like, dude, David, I want to pass this knowledge. I want people to there's a path and there's something better and how to go about this. And you created this book not only in English, but in Spanish as well. Yep. So for those
fuego paraíso, it's almost the same thing, right?
The same thing. So if those people out there right now that they're looking to change their life or they're trying to get out, I suggest you guys to buy this book. In fact, I want to give out this book. Whoever's right now listening to this podcast and they want this book, I'm gonna buy a couple for you, and I'm gonna give them away. So if you're looking to get this book away, send us a message, send us your information, and we will definitely make sure I will get one of my staff, and you will get this book for free. We want to make sure people change their lives. We don't want to see people in prison.
And the book is definitely gonna tell you a lot about not only my life, but the way, like you just said, how I was able to move forward, trying to forget about the past. That's basically what it's gonna say. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, like you just said, all these things I did was nobody gave to me, right? Nobody gave me the job. Nobody gave me, how you saying? Somebody helped me out with a job, but nobody gave me the will, right, to work. Nobody gave me the will to want to move forward. That's only something that you got to have yourself.
You have to do it.
Is the will.
And I think that consistency creates opportunity. Consistency will take away depression. Consistency will take away that uncertainty. Consistency will take away so many things, dude. If you don't know what you want, or you're depressed, or you're going through just stay consistent on what you're doing and be hungry about it.
That's it.
This is the two books, English and Spanish. And if you want to get out of the trenches, you want to get out to the next level, you just finished getting out of jail, you being a year out of jail, and you haven't able to find a path, buy this book immediately, or just reach out to me, and I'll give it to you guys for free with no problem. The first 20 people that called out, we'll give you guys a book for free in Spanish and English. So I think it's an incredible situation, and there's more to it. There's a lot of things that we did not cover.
Yeah.
A lot of stories
okay.
that I want you guys to tell me. A
Okay.
lot of funny story,
We'll
crazy
cover.
story,
Yeah, we'll cover.
and stories after the jail, after your freedom. I have
Yeah, of
freedom
course.
now, and what you do with your time, what you do with your family,
Of course.
and I want to talk about family too.
So much. Yeah.
So there's gonna be a second part of we're gonna talk about family.
Nice.
And everything else, man. William, I appreciate this time. I appreciate what you did, brother. And go run, get this book. It's an incredible book. And thank you, man.
Thank you. Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me, and I appreciate the interest you taking in me. And
Let's make
again,
this.
thank you, man.